on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists. Our brain doesn't allow us to just move past, right? We fixate on the things that we did wrong, and if I would have just done this differently or acted this way different, then things would be better. And we fixate on these and we begin to put them in like a loop, a cycle. Slow down. I need to not be rushing to the next thing all of the time. I need to appreciate what is right in front of us. Really try and identify both, who do you want to help and how will you be helping them? And if we're working towards these goals, that's going to set up ourselves for 10 years from now or 20 years from now or 50 years from now. I think there will be less opportunity for us to have things that we did that we regret or things that we're having a hard time moving past or not appreciating.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 517. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being with us today, and happy holidays to all of you. Just having wrapped up Thanksgiving and heading into the end of year holidays, I think it's natural that many of us start reflecting and planning a little bit for the upcoming year, because I feel like a lot of us are both excited about this particular holiday season, but man, we're also ready at the same time for this new year to begin. Like it can't happen soon enough. We want to take all of that crap, all of that baggage from this current year, roll it up in a carpet, wrap it up in tape, and just throw it in the deepest grave possible and start piling that dirt on. And that's kind of the space that I'm in right now. I'm kind of feeling a little bit that way where, man, I'm really excited for a new year. But I need to just shed the last year first, like a snake with its new skin. Like I just need to get rid of all that stuff and start new. In many ways, I feel like 2025 has been a great year. Allison and I celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. We sent kid number 1 off to college, where he is absolutely thriving. Kid number 2 and number 3 are doing well in school and happy and healthy. The middle one's going to graduate in about 6 months from high school. And even our little puppy Otis, who's not so much a puppy anymore, but he's doing really well and he's super cute. Like it's awesome. But there have been plenty of challenges from this past year that I'm just ready to move past. And that's the key, because we have to keep moving past the noise and keep going in that right direction. And I think that's, for the theme of the show today, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about in this episode. Things that, I'm planning on doing, things that I would hope that maybe you could consider as well for yourself, things that are going to make sure that when we get to this time next year, it's going to hit a little bit differently. It's not going to be, we have to pack up all this stuff and toss it in this dirt grave. It'll maybe be less. We will have done things proactively to set ourselves up and be in a better situation. So here, I think I have 5 things listed out that we'll talk about. So number 1, how the movies have that breakup scene where there's that main character and usually a friend tells them to do this, but they'll take the picture of their ex and then they light it on fire and they throw it in the garbage can or whatever, and that's their way of moving past the relationship, past the heartbreak, or past whatever. I think that's where we need to start. And the X in this situation is all the painful mistakes that we made, that we're constantly reliving in our head, maybe embarrassing moments. Maybe we said something to a patient in the wrong moment, or heaven forbid, we had to speak at church or something like that and said something wrong. I think back when I was a teenager and I had to give a speech and I was going through puberty, my voice would squeak and that was just so embarrassing, right? But I think also we have this pain, maybe, I don't know if pain is the right word, but I'll call it pain for the moment, of missed opportunities, things that we should have said yes to, or things that we should have just actively done that we didn't. And then looking back in hindsight, we missed out on something pretty great, pretty grand. And when we hold space in our our brains, when we ruminate on these types of events, it can actually lead to some serious mental health disorders, because sometimes our brain doesn't allow us to just move past, right? We fixate on the things that we did wrong. And if I would have just done this differently or acted this way different, then things would be better. And we fixate on these and we begin to put them in like a loop, a cycle where it's constantly nagging on us. And logically, of course, we know there's nothing we can do to change the past, but our brain doesn't really want us to get past it. So what do we need to do? So how do we package up all of this crap that we had, and how do we move on? And there was this blog post from Psych Central that I was reading recently, and they gave 3 suggestions. And I'll put the link in the show notes because I'm only going to talk about one of the things that they had, one of the suggestions that they had. But I want you to go read it if you're identifying with this, because they made some really good points about rumination versus obsession and what compulsion is. They talked a lot about mental health disorders and how all of this is connected, or maybe not even connected to mental health disorders, but how do you differentiate between all of the different things? And so it's a really, really good read if you're identifying with this. And so again, I'll put the link in the show notes. But the first thing that they talked about was the need to quiet the inner critic, right? That voice in there that is always telling us we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough. Why are we, by the way, just so mean to ourselves? Why are we saying things like, yeah, you're just not smart enough, you're not ambitious enough, you're not good looking enough, tall enough, whatever the thing is? Because I guarantee you, if our patients told us this, and I don't know any of you, but if you're listening to a dental hygiene podcast, then you're probably in the same boat. If our patients go in and start telling us how terrible they are, and they're not smart enough, they're not good looking enough, no, whatever, we are the first to jump in and support them. Even if we don't really know them all that well, like, oh, that can't be true. Like, you have a lot of great qualities. If our friends, if our families say these things, if my daughter comes to me and she was ever to utter such ridiculous nonsense words, in a nanosecond, I would be there listing all of the things that she's the most amazing about. But when it comes to our inner monologue, we all of a sudden are kind of jerks to ourselves. So to overcome this, we need to practice really, really hard. It has to be something that we set. I don't know if you are like me, you forget to do things on a daily basis, unless it's like, I don't know, take medication or something like that. But if you're like me and forget, then we need to set an alarm on our phones. We need to take this seriously. We need to learn how to be more compassionate and how to forgive. This phrase has found its way into many conversations I've been having with friends lately. And the phrase is that hurt people, right? It's the people that are hurt and perpetuate the hurting to other people. And unfortunately, I think we all know some people. I definitely know some people, even in this industry, who are just really mean people. But unfortunately, they're mean because they're just hurting. They're broken. And then they lash out and then they hurt others. So we need to work on forgiving ourselves, forgive and forget, right? The mistakes that we made this past year. And then we need to move on without carrying that burden. We need to not look to the past anymore. We're done with that. We're good people. We're moving on. And that's going to take lots of work, daily reminders of yourself that you're a good person, and a lot of practice, like I mentioned. So number 2 is kind of along these lines, and it's about appreciation. Like we need to learn how to appreciate. And I had a really huge lesson in this recently on a trip with a friend. She is crazy into wildlife. She's one of those people that she's the type that can look at all of the birds and then tell you exactly what type they are when I'm barely even noticing that there's little birds flitting about. She talks about their coloring, the shape of their wings and their tails, behavior things. So much detail about a very common animal that I almost never see in my periphery. Obviously, I know that they're there. I do see them. I just don't notice them, and I don't take the time to learn about the things that I was saying. I very much take birds and wildlife and even like flowers, stop and smell the roses, that kind of stuff. I very much take all that stuff for granted. So one evening we did a short little boat tour down this river, and it was really dark. And after a few moments, almost out of nowhere, there was this tree, and it was as if this whole tree was on fire, but it was really just a bunch of fireflies or lightning bugs, whatever you know them as. And they had this kind of pulsating energy, and it was glorious. It was absolutely beautiful in the pitch black of the night to see these lights kind of just shining. Generally, I'm just not really one to appreciate these types of things. And so I look around on this boat and I'm looking at all these people, and they just watched and listened, and there was just kind of like this reverence and this awe. And it was just a really nice reminder to actually like slow down. I need to not be rushing to the next thing all of the time. I need to appreciate what is right in front of us. And my friend mentioned that she could have been there for hours watching them. And that thought stuck with me for quite a long time. And obviously, I'm still talking about this on a podcast, so it stuck with me. And I was thinking, could I do that? Could I, on this boat, watch these fireflies and appreciate it? And I think that we all need to practice appreciating things. And if we're bad at it, find someone who's good at it and allow them to show you. And then number 3, who did you meaningfully help this past year? And then thinking about for next year, who are you going to meaningfully help in this next year to come? And for me, that's a tricky question because I think a lot of us are helpful people and we're helpful all the time. But a lot of time that we're being helpful, we're being paid for it, right? So with our patients, we're being helpful, we're serving them, but really we're getting paid for it. Our coworkers, we're helping level them up, but we're also getting paid to be there and to help them / put up with them sometimes. Sometimes it's also just our responsibility as a member of a family or a member of a group. And, I'm serving, my kids by doing X, Y, or Z, but that's because I'm the dad and that's my role and responsibility for that. So it's not really quite the same as meaningfully helping someone in the way that I'm kind of describing, because that's just not enough. And I think that if we're struggling to move past our mistakes from this past year, helping others is really going to get our mind off of the past. And I think it also gives us an appreciation. So we're talking about like we're struggling to find the ability to appreciate. When we're helping others, sometimes that we see things in other people's lives that we're just grateful that we're not having to go through, right? So let's sit with this thought for just a minute. Really try and identify both, who do you want to help and how will you be helping them? This is a similar exercise to what we did every time I went to the office to help the hygienist, and we set goals and we said, okay, how are you doing right now in this one particular area? And then, how will you get better? So where do you want to be? And then what's the path to get there? Because I think sometimes we're like, oh yeah, we're going to help people, but then we don't set up a game plan. Then we're just dooming ourselves. So there's something specific. It could be the dental space. If you want to be in the dental space, like a dental mission trip that you might want to join. Do you want to help mentor a new grad or even like a dental assistant or something like that? Are you finding that you're having more time? So maybe you can volunteer with your, local or state dental groups, both ADHA and non-ADHA affiliated. Or is it something even completely outside of dentistry? I mean, it could again be with someone that you go to church with, someone that's in your community, someone from the PTA. Is it helping, the single parent do some things? Where do you want to go with this? And think about this and write down that goal for this next year. I promise you, it's really going to help you get kind of out of your own issues and focus on something else. And then number 4 is thinking about, again, we're trying to look back, at the end of this year, look back and be like, hey, I did something really, really cool, or I did something, meaningful with my time. And hopefully that'll translate to having less regrets or, things they need to move past. So what is the next challenge or what is the new skill that you want to develop this year? Again, that's going to occupy a lot of your brain space and a lot of your time. It also, I think is really important to give you something to look forward to. And hopefully that'll kind of shift out of the, you go to work, every day and you don't really remember the drive in, you don't really remember the drive out because you do it all the time. Like that repetitive action is sometimes kind of messes with your concept of time. And so if you have something like this that you're looking forward to doing, whether it's going to be weekly or monthly or whatever it is, I think that's going to really change that perspective of how you're utilizing your time and where did that time go. And these skills could be any number of different things. Maybe you want to finally learn Italian or Spanish, or maybe you're a terrible cook or a bad dancer and you want to improve in both of those areas. Maybe you want to start public speaking. Working on all of these types of things is that exercise that you need to do that's going to reward future you. It's not going to, in the moment, probably do too much. But again, when you're looking back on, this time next year on what has transpired, you'll have good things to think about yourself doing. And then the last thing I think that's really important is to identify what does 10 years look like from now. This has been a topic amongst my friend group a lot lately as we kind of start to age out of some of the different phases of life and into other phases, right? That our kids are going to all be out of school in the next 5 years. And so, what will Allison and I do as empty nesters? Will we keep the house? Will we look to downsize? Are we going to rent out this house and become renters ourselves in new cities, new areas? What do we want the job situation to look like? What should the bank account situation look like? Our retirement accounts? All of these different types of things, we need to look at it and say, okay, well, look, if I go down to 3 days a week in 10 years, then what am I going to do with my extra days? Am I going to start gardening? Am I going to do, woodworking? Am I going to, volunteer at the animal shelter? Like what am I really going to do to occupy the time? And I think that when you identify a lot of those things, then you will be actively working towards those goals in the short time. And so again, we're looking at this time next year, do we have as many regrets? And if we're working towards these goals, that's going to set up ourselves for 10 years from now or 20 years from now or 50 years from now. I think there will be less opportunity for us to have things that we did that we regret or things that we're having a hard time moving past or not appreciating. So that's it. Those are the 5 things I'm going to be thinking about working on, hopefully getting better at. Hopefully some of this works for you too. I think we owe it to ourselves to be quite a bit kinder to ourselves and kinder to others. I would love for all of us to work on that forgiveness point that I was mentioning earlier. It's crazy when I look around and I see all these people still carrying grudges from years ago. I don't understand how they have space in their lives for that kind of thing. They can't be happy people. They got to be miserable. But then at the same time, I can't forgive myself for doing something so tiny, something so stupid. It doesn't carry any real consequences. And I'm looking back at that baggage from this year, and I just can't seem to forgive myself. So who knows? It's a conundrum. But I appreciate you all listening to this episode. I'm really hoping that next week we'll have a big announcement for who our new co-hosts are. But until then, have a great week, everybody. All right, listeners, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to reach out to all of our guests. Give us a follow on social media. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you have a minute, head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter. All right, we'll see you on the next one. This has been a production of Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B.